Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Night Shift. Thanks for tuning in for our second episode. I'm Kyle Stuke, and I'm joined by my fellow night shifter, Noah Bosley. How are you, Noah?
I'm good. I like the nickname.
Well, today, friends, we're going to be talking about The Wolf of Snow Hollow. No one expected a sequel to The Wolf of Wall Street, especially one without Leonardo DiCaprio, but...
And more wolves.
Yeah.
Surprising lack of wolves in the first one.
Yeah, it's like if you're gonna name it that, it's really disappointing to the audience to not have a wolf show up on Wall Street.
I'm really glad they listened to the fans for the second movie.
This is the second film of Jim Cummings. His first feature film was Thunder Road. I just absolutely adored that film, and so I remember instantly getting on IMDb and just being like, whatever this guy's doing next, I want to know about it. Noah, had you known anything about Jim Cummings before this film? Had you heard about this film at all? Tell me everything.
I knew nothing about him. I didn't know who he was, what kind of stuff he did. I had actually just heard about it for the first time the day that you mentioned that's what we were going to watch, which is the day we watched it. But I remember seeing the poster and I thought it looked really cool, and I was in.
Would you mind giving us a synopsis of what The Wolf of Snow Hollow is about?
It's a lot of like executives doing cocaine. Wait, no, that was the first one. It is about this small town in Utah called Snow Hollow. It's in the middle of winter, and it starts with a victim from out of town that gets basically eviscerated, and there's a pretty gruesome crime scene that's discovered by her boyfriend. And people are trying to figure out who could have done something like this. And then immediately people are like, well, it's probably a werewolf.
Yeah, people are very quickly ready to go. It's a werewolf.
They jump on that, yeah, immediately. And everyone's like, well, yeah, it's probably a werewolf, right? And then our main character, played by Jim Cummings, that starts kind of his downward spiral, and like, everyone's crazy and I'm just trying to do my job. And he keeps yelling at people because they're like, do you think that it could be a werewolf? He's like, stop it.
Two details just to insert into that. We quickly learn that he's a recovering alcoholic, and that also his father is having health issues. And so you kind of quickly get the sense that his dad's trying to downplay what's happening, still trying to hold on to his masculinity and his position. Yeah. And so the main character is trying to balance stepping into the role of sheriff while also dealing with all the stress of his failed marriage, his alcoholism, his daughter, and then just the incompetence of the rest of the force, minus the character played by Ricky Lindholm, who is best known for, Garfunkel and Oates. So she's kind of like the only competent cop on the force, and kind of the smart one who knows the procedures and kind of is rolling her eyes a lot at both the other incompetent cops, but also Jim's character too, because
his reactions to their incompetence. Yeah, it really feels like it's a classic horror movie wearing a Fargo flannel blanket. Like it's
covered in blood.
It's just yeah. Well, in like Fargo itself, whether the movie or the show is really about the people and the drama in their lives, and then this sprinkles in that mystery and the occasional shock. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good comparison for it.
Let's get into what we liked about the movie. What are your overall pluses, Noah?
My favorite parts were the writing. I thought was really good, very natural. It had a great flow. It worked really well with the pace of the movie. There was no part that felt forced or slow. The acting, just because, like I said, it felt very different, but very real. Yeah, I would say those are my two. I think I really like the music, and I'm saying I think because I didn't notice it that much, but I remember it being very effective, which I think is a good sign, because it added to the experience rather than, me kind of being pulled away and being like, oh, I really like this song or this music that's being played, and not being focused on the movie.
Going off of what you said about the music, something we talked about that was cool, there's a lot of creativity in how this movie is put together and how its different parts, sound, visuals, are used to heighten its strengths, which are its comedy and its horror, and its personal touch. And so something that was cool with the music that we talked about was to kind of show just the amount of stress that Jim's character is experiencing. There's a scene where they're at a crime scene and everyone's wanting something from him. And so the music is really loud, to where it's kind of hard to hear some of the things. And the camera is spinning around Jim, going from different person to different person. I thought it was very creative because you yourself are getting overwhelmed. You're struggling to hear. And I think the thing that helped me clue into this was intentional was that Jim's character keeps screaming, "I can't hear you," because multiple people are talking to him at the same time. And I thought that was super. It really brings you into the main character's headspace.
You never really get that in movies. Like, that's kind of almost a faux pas in terms of movie making, because you're supposed to trim the fat, but in this case it just works so well. Yeah, I thought that was super effective.
Keeping with the creativity, the film did something which I have not really seen before, where it juxtaposes an attack on a victim with then the characters at the crime scene talking about it, with then looking at the body in the coroner's office, and then afterwards the funeral, and just cutting back and forth between them. And that sounds like it could get really chaotic and be really jarring or like pretentious and just confusing, but there's dialogue overlaid between all of it in the music to where it really creates a hilarious and somber vibe, because again, it draws you into the main character's headspace. And I thought that was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done. Like you said, that the editing really helps everything come together.
I also thought the physical comedy in the movie was fantastic.
Yes.
There are so many like funny quote unquote fight scenes, characters just like pushing each other, and it comes across again very silly and slapsticky, but also realistic, to where it's not like you're hearing the stereotypical punch sound. It's just the characters are like pushing each other in the face and slapping each other and rolling around, and
it's clumsy. Yeah,
this movie does something that horror movies don't normally do, and that's give humanity to its victims.
Yes,
it's not just, okay, here's some dumb teenagers, they're naked, they get killed. It's like, hey, here's a very sweet couple. They're about to get engaged. They've had a wonderful day together, and then something terrible happens. Or here's another character who's just really sweet and one of the nicest people ever, and too bad. And the film kind of, it's kind of that rule of three with comedy. It kind of like, it keeps doing this thing where it introduces you to victims and then twisting it a little bit, playing with your expectations. And so Noah and I would just like, as soon as we would see a specific shot of a character by themselves, we would just go, no, because it's the film telling you, hey, I'm about to make you like this person, and then I'm going to destroy them.
Yeah, it doesn't try to hide it at all, which is why none of this is really a spoiler, because as soon as they come on screen, you're like, dang it.
Yeah.
And the movie takes about like 15, 20, maybe 30 seconds to make you really like this character and give you like a full backstory, with like a lot of it is kind of implied. They don't explicitly say, hey, this is the whole story of this person, this is why you should like them. It's very efficient in the way it presents the character, and they all feel very unique and fleshed out. And then you're like, shoot, like this person's gonna die for sure, but I don't want them to.
And because this is a horror show, I just have to say the gore in this movie is awesome. CGI blood is one of the worst things that can happen to a movie, and this film has great practical special effects, and it's not tacky. It's not too over the top. It's just the right balance where you're like, oh my gosh, that's awful. But then I'm also not like, okay, movie, we get it. You just really want to like be disgusting and revel in it. It's very tasteful, which sounds weird to say for this kind of quirky comedy, horror movie. But I found it just like the perfect balance of what I want as a fan. Well, let's quit kissing this movie's butt. Let's get to some of the things maybe that didn't work for us, if there are any. Let you start, my beautiful friend.
I think there were a couple of moments where we both kind of at the end were like, so why did they do that?
Yeah.
And I won't point to anything specific, but it seems like they sort of imply certain things, but don't there's not really a payoff, or at least none that we could tell. But there were just a few moments where I was like, okay, I wish that something more had come of that. And again, it could be a fault of mine as a viewer, or I could just, be putting too much weight on those things and maybe they weren't supposed to mean anything. Or it's like red herrings, because there were a few of those in the movie. That's the only thing I can think of, because I thought everything else really fit together. It's a pretty quirky movie, but I think everything just kind of fits.
For me, to go against what you just said, I love the combination of this movie being genre, horror, werewolf, style film with a very personal story about a man just struggling with holding things together. And Jim Cummings succeeds so well at that, because he just seems drawn to brokenness, and that's what Thunder Road is about, is just people's downward spiral, just very human, and I love that. My critique, I guess, would come from, I don't feel like at the end of the movie, either story, the genre story or the personal story, reached their max potential. Again, like, it's not super bad. It's like just enough.
Yeah.
Thunder Road, to do that annoying thing when you compare someone's film to their previous one or the one that you like the most. It's just Thunder Road felt so perfectly packaged to me in terms of character starts here, ends here. The journey was just so satisfying. Where here, it just didn't quite mesh enough for me, but that's subjective. And then the only other thing I'll say is, and I'm sorry, I have to look at my notes because I'm terrible with characters' names, but or actors' names too. But again, Ricky Lindholm and then Robert Forster, who this was his last film, unfortunately. They're both great in the movie, but they also don't have a ton to do, and I kind of was a little bit disappointed with how much they were in the movie. Specifically, Ricky Lindholm, just because she just is kind of there, and for being such a comedic powerhouse from her Garfunkel and Oates time, I just kind of wanted to see her be in the film more. And again, that's fine, because that's a decision they made. It's not her story, so that's just me wanting that. But again, while she's there, she's great, and she does make the movie better. Papa just want a little bit more.
A little bit more.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've come to the end then. It's time to rate this bad boy. Noah, what would you give The Wolf of Snow Hollow?
This is hard because it's the first rating. So I'm like, am I going to shoot myself in the foot? I'm going to give it a B+. I think B+ is like really solid. I liked it overall. I think it was really fun. It was really fresh. I would watch it again, which is a pretty good sign. And B+. I'm happy with that, and very little to complain about.
Oh, it's funny because I feel like I was much more negative than you, but I also have the exact same rating. I am also a B+. But yeah, no, this film is really fun. It's a perfect Halloween movie, but it's also different to where you're not just going to be watching the same thing that you've seen countless times before. This is a man with a unique vision. I can see his acting style not work for everyone, just like it didn't in Thunder Road, but it worked for you and I can't wait to see him make another movie. So
absolutely, I'm in.
Go out, buy it, support interesting films like this. Leave a tip. Yeah, leave Jim a tip.
When you buy this on Amazon, leave a tip. If you can't find a place to do that, I'll give you my Venmo.
Well, Noah, thank you for joining me on our second episode of The Night Shift. Like with Abby and I calling ourselves night shifters, we weren't quite sure how to leave the review. So I don't know if you want to try your hand at anything here, but...
No, I'd have to sit on it. I don't have anything.
Okay, well then we'll just do what we did last time when I say goodbye, Noah.
Keep on shifting.
Keep on shifting, baby. I shifted my pants.
I shifted my pants.